Am I introducing myself?
I think, yeah, I usually get people just to do that. I don't always use it, but what would you say? I'm a mastering engineer.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm a mastering engineer. My name is John McLaggan. I'm a mastering engineer on the east coast of Canada. So this is my space, and parachute mastering is what I call the studio. And really the room, like it's super fun to talk about gear, super fun to talk about plugins and like little tricks and whatnot. But really the room for me is the most crucial part of it, the room and the speakers. So I have a pair of ATCs for my main and really my only monitors in here. And the room I had professionally designed and then spent about a year building it out. And that is key for me. I could work without the analog gear and get very similar results in a different room with different speakers. I would eventually get there, but it would take me a lot longer. Those are actually the most important tools I have. I use a hybrid of analog and plugins. I really like the analog workflow, and if I had to choose one, that would be it. But I have no issues using plugins. There are certainly things that a plugin can do that analog gear can't do. There's a lot more options out there. They tend to not be things that I'm reaching for right away, but like whatever it takes, if that's the right tool for the job, then yeah, for sure. Basically, I'm trying to control a couple basic elements in the song. I'm trying to control the dynamics, and I may be doing that with a compressor. Am probably doing that with some sort of limiting. I also am controlling that a little bit with EQ and sometimes on occasion with a little bit of saturation or even, yeah, occasionally with tape. So controlling the dynamics and then also balancing the EQ spectrum. And that can also be done. It's weird, but yeah, compression can also then affect the EQ and obviously equalizers for EQ, but also saturation sometimes for like kind of subtle EQ moves as well. Expectations are definitely can be definitely tricky for mastering. I think there's just such a wide swing of expectations. I think some people expect that their track is going to come back like a brand new track, and want that. They want it to be significantly changed. And then some people would absolutely, you know, wring my neck if I change their tracks too much. So, that's just about communication with the engineer and sorting out, is it really close? Are you really happy with it? Do I just need to like move it a little bit, or even within the context of an album, just get them all working together? Or are you sending me a track that you kind of know right out of the gate, like, yeah, the low ends, I just can't get the low end, or could you help? What do you think about the snare drum? Uh, and oftentimes people will ask for mixed notes, and I'll just kind of give them my 2 cents on whether some things could be moved around. But yeah, expectations can really vary. So that's just a kind of a communication thing and sorting that out before I jump in. In terms of advice for people who are working on their own mastering, one, I would say it's awesome. That's great. It's such a great thing to experiment with. It's also like you can learn a lot about your own mixes just by kind of working on mastering them. The biggest like suggestion I would have is just keep it simple. It's easy to watch tutorials and think like, well, every master must have some stereo widening, some kind of saturator, some kind of clipper, some kind of tape emulation, and on and on and on, because that's what this tutorial told me that will give me a radio ready, sound. Yeah, I would avoid all of that because I think it just, one, they can be great tools, or they can be, they're very powerful, so they can easily. It's like driving like a really souped up sports car, but you've got a bunch of dirt on your windshield. You can't quite see where you're going, so you're gonna go fast and you might get there, but you might get some bumps along the way. So I would say just keeping it simple with EQ and limiting. I think if you're mixing it, then you've probably set bus compression appropriately for yourself, in a way that you like, and then you really should be down to pretty much just EQ and limiting. So really what you're trying to do is just balance the EQ in a way that it will highlight the song, but also kind of play well with the limiter. Kind of a fun experiment with this is you can crank the limiter and put it on the delta mode. So all you hear is what the limiter is affecting. And then you can kind of hear if things are out of whack. Like if it's just your kick drum pushing the limiter every time, then you might know like, oh yeah, maybe maybe I need to dial that kick drum back, or maybe I need to tame the low end, balance that out a little bit so it's not pushing the limiter quite so much. Or if you find that it's vocal notes that are hitting like sustained into the limiter and distorted, then maybe the vocal itself needs a little more compression, or maybe you need a little compression on the entire track. So that's kind of a fun experiment you can do, and it can be really insightful in terms of just figuring out how to get the EQ balance correct so that it's playing well with the limiter. The AI option I just think is not optimal, I'll say, for a few reasons. Once, there's no collaboration, right? The AI is just going to do its thing. Maybe you get a couple tries where you can like click some different boxes for genre and try some stuff, but that's about as collaborative as you're going to get. My experience with them has been they've ranged from like okay, like that's okay, to like really weird. Like I've seen it do really weird things to tracks, especially if your music is not a cookie cutter type thing, then, which I would assume most people's is not, then the AI can really do some squirrely things with certain genres. And in once you cross into that world, you're investing in big companies and you're investing like in some case in corporations. So your money is kind of leaving the world, it's leaving your artist community at that point. So I think I'd always rather see, like, I mean, if you can do it, it's always great to work with a separate mastering engineer. If the budget's not there, I'd rather see people invest in themselves or someone who's just starting out than invest in AI. That's a better investment for most people. I just have always always kind of leaned towards being very detailed in what I do, to the point where it could be a detriment in mixing. Like I would just go so far down the rabbit hole on an acoustic guitar tone. I just wanted to work in those really small increments and just like obsess on something. So I love that now I just like, I've got free license to just like let myself get pulled in and be completely, obsessed about what the limiter is doing to the reverb, or, whatever that like fine kind of detail is. I love now that I can just like lean into that. I love that I get to work on so many different genres. I love that I get to work with clients, from all over the world that I wouldn't have necessarily had access to as a mix engineer. After being an artist for years, I love that it's not about me. I love it. That's the best part. I'm so over myself. I'm really happy to advocate for artists and just help other people get to where they want to be, and just like not think about myself at all. So that's actually like one of my favorite things, is it's just not about me at all, and I love that. And I love just being able to come to work and listen to great music on great speakers in a great room. It's just, I'm so fortunate to be able to do that. Spend my days that way.